Welcome to Criminal Tracks. 2025 has been a turbulent year for Vietnam's entertainment industry, shaking up reputations and sparking nationwide conversations. From beloved YouTubers facing criminal charges to beauty queens losing luxury brand deals, the year exposed the darker side of fame and influence. These scandals didn't just make headlines. They changed public perception, ruined partnerships, and reminded everyone that the internet never forgets. In this video, we're diving deep into the 5 biggest controversies that rocked Vietnamese showbiz in 2025. If you want more real, unfiltered stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and follow for the latest updates from behind the spotlight. Kuang Lin had been one of the most beloved faces on Vietnamese YouTube. He wasn't just known for content, he was known for compassion. His videos from Angola, where he brought water, food, and smiles to poor communities, gained him millions of fans. He represented something rare, a content creator who seemed to use his fame for good. Which is why, when news broke in April 2025 that Kuang Lin had been arrested by the Ho Chi Minh City Police, it felt like a punch to the gut for so many people who looked up to him. The charge wasn't something vague or technical, it was direct, advertising a product with false health claims. Specifically, a product called Kira, a vegetable-based candy that had become popular thanks to endorsements from influencers. The candy had been marketed as a miracle product, said to help children grow taller, improve digestion, and even support brain function. These weren't just suggestions. They were presented like medical facts in the ads, and Kuang Lin was among the most high-profile faces pushing those claims. He featured Kira in multiple videos, and even used his public image to convince viewers that the product had his full trust. Parents bought the product. Some gave it to their children every day. But when Vietnam's Ministry of Health looked deeper into the claims, they found no scientific basis for any of them. In fact, the product hadn't passed several standard evaluations required for health-related food supplements. The arrest wasn't spontaneous. It came after months of investigation. Authorities were reportedly building a case not only against the manufacturers of Kira, but also against the network of influencers who promoted it. Kuang Lin was just the most famous among them. When police took him in, they also issued a statement that made it clear this was going to be a broader crackdown on false advertising in digital media. Still, the public was stunned. Many had seen him as too good to fall. This wasn't a nightclub scandal or some internet drama. This was something much more serious, a legal case that tied into public health and child safety. When the footage of him being escorted by police surfaced, it went viral within minutes. The comments were a mix of disbelief and heartbreak. Some said they still refused to believe he had knowingly misled people. Others pointed to previous videos where he had praised the candy without providing any sources or data. As more details emerged, including how much money he had been paid for the sponsorship, the mood started to shift. It wasn't just a mistake, it was part of a campaign. And his influence had been used to sell something that might have misled thousands of families. The fallout didn't stop at social media. The Vietnam Fatherland Front, a major national political organization, announced within 48 hours that Kuang Lin had been dismissed from his position as a Central Committee member. It was a stunning fall from grace. Only a year earlier, he had been praised on national TV for his efforts to bring clean water systems to rural African villages. Now, he was facing criminal charges. Legal analysts explained that under Vietnamese law, promoting a product with false information, especially when it affects children, can carry serious penalties, including prison time. Other influencers who had promoted Kira quickly began scrubbing their posts. Some issued apologies. A few claimed they hadn't known the product's claims were false. But in Kuang Lin's case, the authorities had allegedly obtained enough evidence to suggest he had been made aware, and still went ahead. That's what made the case different. It wasn't about making a simple mistake. It was about knowingly supporting a lie for money. Media outlets ran headlines like, "From humanitarian to defendant," and "The tragedy of Kuang Lin." Public opinion was divided, with some people defending him, saying he had done more good than harm in his career, while others believed his actions had permanently damaged his credibility. Sponsors disappeared overnight. Several brands he had previously worked with quietly deleted him from their pages. His YouTube channel, once filled with uplifting content and hope, was now frozen. No new uploads, no statements, just silence. What stung the most for fans wasn't the crime itself, but the betrayal of trust. He had seemed incorruptible, a guy who used his platform to build wells, not just profits. But in the end, he had let the same platform be used to sell a lie. The story was no longer about Angola, charity, or good deeds. It had become a cautionary tale about what happens when influence is misused, and how even the most admired public figures are not above the law. At the height of her fame, Nuanthuk Tuien wasn't just another beauty queen. She was a symbol of modern Vietnamese elegance, graceful, articulate, and adored by both fans and fashion brands. After winning Miss Grand International in 2021, she built a massive following and transformed herself into a lifestyle icon. International labels lined up to work with her, including the prestigious Dior. She was more than a pageant winner, she was a brand, which made it all the more shocking when, in March 2025, her name appeared on a government order, fined for spreading false information about a so-called miracle candy. The product in question was Kira, the same vegetable-based candy that had already landed Kuang Lin in handcuffs. Tuien Tien had endorsed it heavily in late 2024 and early 2025, appearing in glossy promotional videos, holding the pastel-colored packaging and talking about how it could help kids grow stronger, taller, and more focused. Her fans, many of whom were young mothers, trusted her. She wasn't just selling makeup or fashion. She was pushing something that parents believed was backed by science. But when health officials examined the claims being made, they found no evidence to support them. Worse, the language used in the ads had crossed the line from marketing into medical misinformation. The government moved quickly. On March 7, 2025, authorities issued an official fine of 25 million Vietnamese dong against her. But the bigger blow came in the form of a 60-day travel ban. For someone whose life revolved around international appearances, brand shoots, and influencer trips, the ban was more than just inconvenient. It was a public black mark. It suggested to the world that Vietnam's most beloved beauty queen had broken trust with her audience and the law. And the consequences didn't stop there. Within days, Dior, which had featured her prominently on its regional pages and in promotional campaigns, quietly removed her content. No statements were made. Her photos vanished from Instagram grids, and collaborations disappeared from lookbooks. Fans noticed first, then the media picked it up. It became clear that the fashion house had distanced itself, not with drama, but with silence. The kind of silence that speaks volumes. For a brand that valued elegance and credibility, this was their way of saying, "We're done." On social media, the reaction was split. Some of her fans argued that she had simply read from a script, that influencers can't always verify everything they promote. Others weren't so forgiving. Screenshots of her holding the candy, smiling and praising its health benefits, circulated widely. People asked why someone of her status didn't do more due diligence. She wasn't a new face in the industry. She had a team, resources, and enough experience to know better. To many, her endorsement wasn't just an accident. It was negligence wrapped in glamour. What made things worse was the timing. Just weeks before, she had posted heartfelt messages about empowering women, supporting children's health, and being a role model. Now, those same statements were being used against her. Memes flooded online forums, twisting her words and questioning her sincerity. Suddenly, the same charm that had made her famous became the target of mockery and doubt. For Tuien Tien, the scandal hit at a career high point. She was booked for appearances in Japan, Korea, and Europe. She had been in talks for a new campaign with a Korean skincare brand, and there were rumors of a hosting role on a major Vietnamese talk show. All of it went quiet. The opportunities didn't vanish overnight, but the momentum did. Brands don't like noise, and she had become the center of it. Her management team tried damage control. They released a brief statement acknowledging the fine and promising to review internal vetting processes. But there was no apology. No personal video from her, no emotional explanation. That silence, intentional or not, only added to the speculation. People wanted to hear her side. Instead, they got formality. In the weeks that followed, she kept a low profile. Her usually busy social media accounts went cold. No Instagram stories, no TikTok dances, no red carpet photos, just absence. And in a world that moves fast, silence can be the loudest fall from grace. It wasn't clear whether she'd bounce back or whether this would be a permanent stain. But one thing had changed forever. She was no longer untouchable. The scandal reminded everyone that in an era of influence, even queens can get dethroned by a single careless endorsement. Harass had always been a polarizing figure in the Vietnamese entertainment scene. To some, he was a multi-talented content creator who dabbled in music, gaming, and business with ease. To others, he was a textbook example of a public figure who thrived on attention, even when it leaned toward controversy. But no one expected what unfolded in early 2025. A scandal that didn't start with a legal charge or a leaked photo. It began with a post, a simple emotionally charged post by his ex-girlfriend Nguyen Kem that would set the internet on fire for weeks. The post wasn't vague. It wasn't an accusation hidden behind emojis or subtle shade. It was direct. Nguyen Kem accused Harass of cheating on her with multiple women while they were still in a relationship. She said he had lied to her face, used her trust, and portrayed himself as a good man in public, while acting like someone completely different behind closed doors. Screenshots of text messages followed. Some of them blurred out names, but the tone was undeniable. Promises, excuses, denials, then contradictions. It wasn't just a matter of one bad decision. It painted the picture of a pattern. The internet exploded. Within hours, Harass was trending on Vietnamese Twitter. Fans and critics alike dissected every line of the screenshots. Who were the unnamed girls? Were any of them celebrities? Speculation ran wild, and then came the shock. Emma Nat Khan and rapper Phut started posting cryptic messages on their own social media accounts. Emma posted a sad face with no caption. Phut dropped a quote about toxic love and deleted it a few hours later. That was enough for the internet to do what it does best: connect the dots and draw conclusions. What made the situation even messier was Harass's initial silence. For 3 days, he said nothing. No denial, no apology, no vague philosophical post. Just complete silence. And in the digital age, that silence is like blood in the water. People assumed guilt. Fan pages started shutting down. His YouTube comment sections filled with hate. On Facebook, the scandal grew beyond a relationship issue and turned into a conversation about the two-faced nature of influencers. People asked why public figures could promote kindness and mental health by day and live completely different realities by night. When he finally did respond, it wasn't in the way many expected. He didn't go live or write a long confession. He posted a short message saying he was processing everything and that some things are not as they seem. That vague wording backfired. It sounded like gaslighting to some, denial to others, and weak damage control to almost everyone. The backlash only got worse. Brands started distancing themselves. A tea brand he had recently collaborated with removed his face from its Instagram page. His name was quietly removed from the schedule of an upcoming tech conference. Twitch fans noticed he wasn't streaming as frequently. Even other streamers, who usually avoided drama, made jokes on air about staying loyal, clearly referencing the scandal without naming names. Meanwhile, Nguyen Kem continued to drip-feed the public more content. She never named other girls outright, but she posted voice notes that seemed to hint at private conversations with Harass. She thanked people for supporting her and made it clear she had no intention of backing down. That persistence only added fuel to the fire. Unlike many scandals that die out within a few days, this one grew legs. It turned into a broader takedown of how male celebrities in Vietnam treat women and how often they get away with it. Some of Viras's fans tried to defend him, saying he was being canceled without a fair chance to speak, but that voice was small compared to the wave of criticism that kept building. Old clips of him making sexist jokes on live streams resurfaced. People began to say that maybe this behavior wasn't new, just finally exposed. He went from being a household name in tech and streaming to a cautionary tale about how fast reputations can crumble when personal life and public image collide. By the end of the month, Viras's had lost over 200,000 followers across his platforms. Sponsors were gone. Live streams were sporadic and filled with spammed comments about the scandal. His fan base wasn't entirely gone, but it was fractured. People weren't just disappointed, they felt tricked. Because in the age of curated online personas, nothing stings more than realizing the person you supported may have never really existed in the first place. Nguyen Fuang Hong was a name that once dominated every corner of Vietnamese social media. For a time, she was known for exposing alleged corruption, confronting celebrities, and speaking with the kind of bluntness that both captivated and enraged viewers. Her live streams were unpredictable, often emotional, and always trending. But after spending time behind bars for defamation and spreading false information, most people assumed she would fade into the background once released. Instead, in early 2025, she returned with even more fire. And that fire quickly ignited a storm of controversy that once again pulled the Vietnamese entertainment industry into chaos. The live stream came without warning, no press release, no teaser, just a Facebook notification that said she was going live. Thousands joined in within minutes. She sat in a simple room, looking calmer than in past broadcasts, but it didn't take long before she started naming names. Dam Vinh Hung, NSND, People's Artist, Hong Von, Vi Oan, the same figures she had attacked years earlier. The tone wasn't apologetic, it was defiant. She accused them of playing the victim, of manipulating the media, and of still owing her explanations. Her words weren't just personal attacks. They were loaded with implications of money, of betrayal, of moral failure. It felt like déjà vu for those who remembered her explosive videos back in 2021 and 2022. But this time, the stakes were higher. She had already served time. There were court rulings on file. The public had been told she would stop. Yet here she was, going after the same targets with the same intensity, if not more. People began to question whether this was a violation of her suspended sentence, or just a calculated move to reclaim attention. Regardless, the damage was immediate. Within hours, clips from her live stream were circulating on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Her comments were taken apart, memed, remixed, and turned into trending hashtags. Supporters cheered her return, claiming she was still the only one brave enough to say what others wouldn't. But the backlash came fast and hard. Viewers reported her stream for hate speech. Lawyers for the celebrities she named publicly hinted that new legal action might be coming. The government, which had tried to distance itself from the noise of celebrity drama, now had to once again deal with the legal questions surrounding her content. What surprised many people was the production value of her comeback. Unlike her earlier videos, which sometimes looked like they were filmed on a whim, this one had clear audio, good lighting, and even an edited opening. It didn't feel like a spontaneous rant. It felt planned. Some suspected that a new team was behind her, people who knew how to stir engagement and manipulate the platform's algorithms. And it worked. Her follower count surged by over 100,000 in a week. Her name was in every news headline, but fame is not always power, and this time, the consequences looked different. Activists and legal experts began weighing in, asking whether her freedom should come with stricter restrictions. Others questioned whether social media platforms should continue to allow her to use their services, given her history. Meanwhile, the celebrities she attacked kept their responses short. Dam Vinh Hung simply posted a photo of himself with the caption, "Silence is strength." Vi Oan shared a quote about focusing on peace. NSND Hong Van said nothing. It was clear they had learned from the past. Don't feed the flames. But the public wasn't silent. Comment sections were flooded with people taking sides, debating not just her words, but what she represented. To some, she was a vigilante. To others, a bully with a microphone. Either way, the scandal brought back all the old wounds of Vietnamese celebrity culture: fame, power, scandal, and the fine line between truth and entertainment. As the week went on, government officials released a vague statement about monitoring content that disturbs public order. There was no mention of her name, but everyone knew who they meant. Rumors swirled that a new investigation might be underway. Her live stream slowed down, then stopped. No explanation, just silence. Some said it was strategic. Others said she had finally been warned. What remained, however, was the damage. To reputations, to the idea that the internet forgets, and to the fragile line between free speech and defamation. Nguyen Phuong Hang wasn't just back. She was once again the storm no one could ignore. Tran Tien was no stranger to public attention. As one of Vietnam's most recognizable entertainers, he had spent over a decade dominating television screens, comedy stages, and even the film industry. Known for his wit, his emotional delivery, and his effortless ability to connect with audiences, he had managed to maintain a mostly positive image despite the pressures of fame. But in January 2025, during what should have been a celebratory moment at the We Choice Awards, a single comment he made sparked a nationwide debate that refused to die quietly. The setting was glamorous. The We Choice Awards had always been an event focused on inspiration, honoring individuals who had made a difference in Vietnamese society. Tran Tien was not just a guest, he was one of the show's centerpieces, with his usual role as both host and performer. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until he took the stage and began a heartfelt monologue about Vietnamese identity. In that speech, he declared that the Áo Dai, Vietnam's traditional long dress, was the national costume of Vietnam. It seemed innocent enough. No insults, no slurs, just pride. But the internet doesn't always react to tone. It reacts to implications. Almost immediately after the clip aired, people began pointing out a problem. While the Áo Dai is beloved and widely worn during holidays, ceremonies, and cultural events, it has never been officially recognized as the national costume by any government document or law. Critics argued that Tran Tien's statement, though likely well-meaning, crossed the line into misinformation. It wasn't just a personal opinion, it was a declaration made on a national stage, and in the eyes of many, that made it political. The debate snowballed. Cultural scholars, fashion historians, and netizens all weighed in. Some defended him, saying that everyone already saw the Áo Dai as symbolic of Vietnamese beauty and tradition, and that his words were simply a reflection of shared values. Others, however, accused him of simplifying a nuanced issue, ignoring ethnic diversity, and speaking without authority. Vietnam, after all, is home to 54 ethnic groups, many of which have their own traditional garments. By declaring a single costume as national, he was seen by some as marginalizing that diversity. The backlash wasn't just academic, it went viral. Social media platforms were flooded with memes, heated threads, and video reactions. Hashtags like Jasai AOD is not official and Shire respect ethnic diversity began trending. Even people who didn't usually involve themselves in celebrity gossip found themselves pulled into the conversation. Some accused him of trying to turn a sensitive cultural discussion into an emotional soundbite for applause. Others dug up old clips where he had made similarly sweeping comments about culture, using them to argue that this wasn't the first time he had blurred the line between performer and national spokesperson. Tran Tien's team responded slowly. For days, there was nothing. No clarification, no apology, not even a subtle edit of the original video. That silence allowed the situation to escalate. Public figures began picking sides. A few singers and actors expressed support for him, saying they wore the ao dai with pride. But others, especially voices from ethnic minority communities, expressed disappointment. They said the issue wasn't about the ao dai itself, but about the casual way someone in his position could define identity for millions of people. When Tran Tien finally spoke, it was via a short post on his Facebook page. He said he loved Vietnam and respected its diversity, and that his comment was meant as a tribute, not a policy statement. It was a careful message, but it didn't land well with everyone. Some felt it lacked sincerity. Others said it came too late. What could have been diffused early with a simple "I misspoke" had turned into a full-blown identity debate. In the weeks that followed, his shows continued, and his name remained in the headlines. He didn't lose sponsorships, nor did any major brands drop him. But something had changed. The public perception of him had taken a hit. Where people once saw him as a harmless entertainer, they now saw someone capable of making culturally weighty statements without enough thought. The incident became more than a scandal. It became a national reflection point about how much power entertainers hold, about the responsibilities that come with that power, and about how even a beloved public figure like Tran Tien is not immune to scrutiny. One sentence at an award show had opened a wound, and whether he meant to or not, he reminded everyone that words, especially on a big stage, can echo far louder than expected. From criminal arrests to explosive live streams, these scandals have left lasting marks on Vietnam's entertainment landscape. Each story reveals how quickly admiration can turn into outrage, and how fragile a public image can be when tested by truth. As we move forward, fans, brands, and celebrities alike are forced to reevaluate the power and responsibility that comes with fame. Which scandal shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more honest breakdowns of the biggest headlines in Asian entertainment, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for our next deep dive.